Yep, some of you may have remembered that we actually covered Boris Yeltsin's court case that was pending court case about a month ago. As you may remember, this was right in coming up towards, I think, right after the election or something like that. It was right after... Hey, chat just kicked in. Yay, there we go. Theresa May had just finished resigning. People were worried that Boris Yeltsin was going or Boris Johnson, sorry, was going to go through and actually take over running the Tories, which would have been really, really bad because apparently he wants a Brexit and they don't want that. And they were a bit concerned that Boris Johnson would go through and take leadership of the Tories and bring through that hard Brexit that the rest of the country seems to want. You know, those articles written by Boris Johnson's a bad idea. And then subsequently, he went through and they started throwing him into court. They were going to charge him over his slanderous lies. And at the time I said that was very, very considerate, very, very conspicuous. Just on the fact that, you know, like, that just right as he's, like, gaining popularity and people are saying, yeah, let's get Boris Johnson involved because he'll give us the hard Brexit and you know, really going through and really pushing this Brexit because, you know, we hadn't had the elections at that stage, which, by the way, have you noticed all the remainders have been very quiet lately? But, you know, point that fact. But it just really seemed to be that everything was teeing up to get Boris Johnson. And then this court case came out of the blue. This faces court case over $350 million Brexit bus claim. So what did Boris Johnson actually say on the bus? Well, this is the interesting thing, and I haven't got it coming up on the screen, but he basically turned around and he wrote that the $350 million that they give to the NHS, that they give to Brussels, would much rather go to NHS. I'm paraphrasing it here. Here, we send the EU 350, so 300, it's supposed to be 350 million. It's been cut off because of the photo. Let's fund the NHS instead. Right? And that was his simple claim. At the end of the day, oops, too far. The simple claim at the end of the day was that, you know, that we're giving all this money to Brussels, so why don't we go through and fund the national health system over in the UK? Well, it's funny because they wanted to throw him in court over these claims. And anyway, they took him to court, and Boris Johnson won't face court case over $350 million Brexit bus claims, as judge takes just 5 minutes to quash Remainder campaign's nonsense and politically motivated crowdfunder prosecution. Does make you wonder what is going to happen with the rest of the money that they actually raised. Right? But anyway, let's jump into it. So Boris Johnson today won a High Court challenge against the court summons over the claims that he made the referendum campaign that the EU receives $350 million a week from the UK. The former Foreign Secretary legal team challenged the summons for him to attend the Westminster Magistrates Court as they blocked a controversial private prosecution by campaigner Marcus Bowell. Mr. Bowell, a Remainder, has been trying to prosecute the Conservative leadership for 3 allegations of misconduct in a public office. But he will now not face court after 2 High Court judges barely took 5 minutes to squash the case. So his lawyer said that District Judge Margaret Cullum erred by issuing the summons and agreed the attempt to prosecute him was accumulation of a politically driven process. This is an important victory for Mr. Johnson, as this is a bid to the next Prime Minister gathers pace, and that's what this is all about. Theresa May formally stepped down as leader of the Conservative Party today, and Mr. Johnson warned that the next leader of the country must deliver Brexit or risk losing the general election. Which I would agree with, by the way. He spoke this morning after Brexit Party narrowly lost the Peterborough by-election to Labour, and Nigel Farage vowed to split the Conservative vote by contesting the general election if Brexit is not delivered by October the 31st. Farage continues in a general election would likely make Jeremy Corbyn's path to number 10 easier by handing Tory seats to Labour in consistencies where a significant vote share would be gobbled up by the Brexit Party. Speaking outside of court today, Mr. Bale said, "We have just given the green light for every politician to lie about our money forever. This is a terrifying idea." Asked about the funds raised and bringing the private prosecution, he added, "I've already spent more than I've raised." I'd like to see the funds on that. "And I've put myself in massive debt to do this," which I seriously doubt. Homeland Security Sadie Jivi tweeted, "I'm glad to see the court case against Boris Johnson thrown out. Freedom of speech feels increasingly challenged, and we should always seek to debate political arguments in open rather than close them down." And Brexiteer Conservative MP Bob Seeley responded to a tweet about the case being quashed, said, "Good, that made it this far was ridiculous." Now, the High Court was due to have broken at 1 p.m, but Lady Justice Raffley instead told the Assembly lawyers and journalists don't go. Given the court's decision, sitting with Mr. Justice Sipperson, she said, "We are persuaded, Mr. Dobeshot, you have succeeded, and the relief that we grant is quashed on the summons." Speaking outside the court, Mr. Bale said, "We have to wait to the reason for the judge's decision. When we have those reasons, I'm going to make a decision on what to do next." Asked if he had a message from Mr. Johnson, Mr. Bale said, "You don't have the right to lie to the public about how their money is being spent." Now, the question I have to ask is he actually lying? Does the UK send Brussels 350 million a week? Because as far as I know, that's actually fairly accurate. Now, there are some, there's some things in there that are like, for example, tax deductions and whatnot, but let's see. Alright, so this is a Brexit exposed website. Right. So, Centros has actually done some research on this, so I would have liked to have had him in chat because he could have posted it. But my understanding is that they send them. Right, here it is here. Right, this is a fact check website, so be warned, this is going to be extremely left-leaning. But the claim, if we the vote to leave, then the 350 million we send to Brussels every week can be spent on priorities like the NHS. The background over there, I don't care about that. The analysis. By the time the in and out referendum takes place before the end of 2017, you may be sick of hearing about £350 million a week. because it's a claim repeatedly endless in the votes leaves campaign material and sure to surface again and again. The figure simply comes from taking Britain's gross annual contributions to the EU finances and dividing it by 52. That gross figure was $18.3 billion in 14 to 15, and according to the Office of the Budget Responsibility, IRB, which worked out to just under $352 million a week. Now, there is a caveat to that. It looks like the gross contributions don't tell the whole story because we get about half of that money back. So about half of the 9 billion or so pounds, is returned via the rebate negotiated by Margaret Thatcher in 1984. Right? And this is something that I think Centros is saying in chat. Let's see if I can quickly find it. Right. No. I thought we talked about it, but I can't seem to find it. But yeah, here it is here. There it is. There's much evidence backing this up. Like we said, we spend 350 million, but the EU only gives us 125 million back. We can spend 300 million a week on so much other shit, like so much we could fix our other current problems. Now, this is what Centros has said in chat and Discord. So, technically, yes, you do pay, which is what he was actually claiming at the start. He said that you actually pay Brussels, or we send Brussels, $350 million. Technically, he is right. Technically, you are sending them 350 million pounds. You are getting a lot of it back. You are getting half of it back. But here's the thing. That's still 120 odd million pounds a week that you guys are sending to Brussels. Okay? I like the fact that the Remainder's argument is, oh, no, it's not 350 million pounds that we're sending them. We're only sending half of that because we get half of that back. Okay. How about the other 125 million pounds? What about that? You know, aren't you concerned that you're handing over 125 million pounds? But no, they just want to sit there and debate and this is what the left does. They debate things and they try and make things general, and the right does it too, I must admit. But at the end of the day, technically Boris was right. Boris claimed that you send Brussels 350 million pounds a week. Technically he is right, but at the end of the day, he's wrong in the fact that you do get half of it back, or around half of it back. But here's the thing. That 125 million still could do a lot for your NHS. It could still do a lot for your schools, for your hospitals, for your roads, for your infrastructure. It could still do a lot to help a country. And that's the point. That's the thing that they don't want you to focus on. They want you to focus on the fact that, oh, he lied, it's not 350 million pounds. Okay, how much is it? Oh, it's only 125. Okay, that's still 125 million pounds. Way too much, if you ask me. Unelected people are blackmailers, money launderers, and dictators. Yeah. I don't know who you're talking about there being unelected, but anyway. But yeah, and that's technically Boris was right. Because he said cent. I think he said cent, but yeah. He added, I would ask you, please, all members of parliament, to elect a representative. Understand you cannot lie to the public about their money. Oh, sorry, I've read that. Alright, yeah. Mr. Bell continued, I care about solving the problem. It seems melodramatic, but I'm willing to sacrifice myself because I care about solving the problem. In other words, he's going to sacrifice himself to the progressive altar. Later on in the tweet, Mr. Boris said this is not over. Awaiting written reasons from the court before deciding next step, which I've already said, sorry. The only reason conclusion would be reached by a district judge was that the prosecution was politically motivated, therefore ventures. Mr. Jobshire told the court that this case clearly represented the face of it, that it would be neutral, a political-orientated attempt to prosecute a senior politician using common law offense for false statements in course of public debate, to use of which that offence had never been put in the country or any common law judiciary. He added that proposed private prosecution concerned an era of public life that has never previously been subject to the attention of the criminal law. Mr. Dobshire said the alleged offences relating to Mr. Johnson's adoption of the promotion of one of the central slogans of the Vote Leave campaign. He said the claim that we send $350 million a week to the EU and the intended party, Mr. Boris says that the misleading essentially and simply because it was the gross figure when the net figure was called for that, when it comes down to it. But here's the thing, and this is what we said. The claim was that we send $350 million. Guess what? The UK does. The UK absolutely does send $350 million to Brussels. Now, yes, it is true. They get half of it, also mostly half of it back. But at the end of the day, the original claim was they send $350 million. Guess what, Buttercup? It's true. You might like it, but at the end of the day, it's a true fact that yes, the UK does send $350 million. Yes, they do get half of it back, but that $125 million that you seemingly don't care about, or you're trying to get people not to worry about, imagine what it can do for your country. Imagine what sort of infrastructure, health systems, or public servants, or schools, or whatever it may be. So, I like the fact that, we're not worried about the 350, the 350 is the wrong number. Okay, what about the 125 million? What about that figure? What could the UK do with that? And that's the question that should be asked. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below.